On a cold winter night, 16-year-old Brittany Snow was home alone, watching TV while her parents went out for dinner. As the snow fell outside, she felt cozy on the couch in the living room, snuggled under a warm blanket. By midnight, Brittany's parents still hadn't returned, and she began to feel uneasy. She hesitated to call them, not wanting them to think she couldn't take care of herself. The TV was in the corner of the room, next to a large window. She was watching one of her favorite horror movies, Prom Night, when suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed something moving outside the window. Through the darkness and falling snow, she could make out the figure of a person approaching the window. As he got closer, she could see his face, filling her with horror. The man's face was scarred, his eyes wild and crazed, and he seemed to be smiling menacingly at her. Terrified, Brittany pulled a blanket over her head and tried to hide. She could hardly bring herself to peek out. Slowly, she emerged from under the blanket to glance with one eye. The man was still there. He just stood there, staring directly at her as the snow fell behind him. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out something. It was a long knife. In horror, Brittany crawled back under the blanket, hoping the madman would think it was just a pile of blankets on the couch. She managed to slowly reach for her pocket and grab her cell phone. Pressing the buttons in panic, she dialed 911 and held her breath, waiting for an answer. When the operator asked, "What is your emergency?" Brittany whispered, "There's a man outside my window. He has a knife. Please come quickly." She sat motionless under the blanket as minutes ticked by. Eventually, she heard sirens outside, and the police began knocking on her door. Brittany rushed to the front door, letting two police officers inside. They said they didn't see anyone around her house. "He was there," Brittany said, pointing through the window at the snow-covered lawn in front of the house. "That's impossible," said the female officer. "There couldn't have been anyone there. The snow is completely undisturbed. If someone was there, there would be footprints, but he was standing there, looking right at me," Brittany said. "I saw him with my own eyes." "You might have been looking at someone else," the officer said. "You've been watching too many scary movies." As the officers turned to leave, the female officer suddenly stopped in her tracks. She pushed aside the couch where Brittany had been sitting. What she saw shocked her. Brittany and the other officer gasped. On the carpet behind the couch were wet footprints. "And you weren't looking at the man outside the window," the female officer said. "You were looking at his reflection. He was standing right behind you."